it's unsettling to the point where you do get a lot of anxiety. You do get a lot of second thought. You get depression about, who can I trust and to run our country? Who can I trust to get us to the next point in line to where we can continue moving forward and just gain some common knowledge about what's out there and what can we actually take in as a society as far as benefits, as far as, inflation and all of these different things. But I mean, it does make me feel some type of way when I see situations like that, because you're just like, was it a ploy the whole time? Was it something that, I mean, I was just getting fed, through a straw and kind of like a comatose person? I don't know. That specific instance, I mean, it upset me. I'm not even gonna lie. It got me infuriated. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Everything's Okay, a mental health podcast brought to you by the one and only Crazy Ant Media. This week, we promised you we would come back and reconvene on our political anxiety topic. And man, oh man, we are. Last week, it was the debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump for the presidency of the United States of America. And man, oh man, we have plenty to talk about that. But I mean, since coming out with our last episode, a lot of things have happened. Biden dropped out of the race because we know he can't jump. Um, we know that RFK, the independent that was running, he conceded and endorsed Trump. We got a pick finally for the vice president nomination behind the Democratic Party. So all of these things. But it's very neck and neck right now. You look at all the poll numbers, and even with the debate going the way it did, it is very neck and neck, and people are still very divided. And so that's why we're here to talk about it, to talk about the division, to talk about, what we saw over the past month and a half since that episode came out. And yeah, it's a lot, man. It's
Well,
still a lot. I mean, it's just a whole lot of different stuff,
it
right?
it really is, and like, yeah, I'm anxious still.
Still,
I know,
yeah.
yeah. So it's and what really gets me anxious is, and what really has me like, it's the division and the hate isn't just staying on either Trump or Kamala.
It's
It's
not.
it's spewing over into other people when they make an opinion or when they make a statement. Then hate is directed towards them when it's really nothing else. Like I just want to say, for example, like when Taylor Swift wasn't endorsing anybody, she hadn't said either way. She was getting hate for that. Then when she came out after the debate and did endorse, she got hate for that. There's like no in betweens. It's like, we hate you if you do this, we hate you if you do that. And then, of course, before she even made a statement, she was getting hate because she's really good friends with Patrick Mahomes' wife, Brittany Mahomes, who made it clear she's a Trump supporter. So then Swiftie fans were like, you can't like her. You can't. Yeah. And it's like, what? You can like whoever you want to like and hug whoever you want to hug. It doesn't mean. And that's where I think the whole thing is just off the rails. As if people are, and this is where the anxiety comes from. This is where the tension comes from and the toxicity comes from. People actually treat other people like you are expected to disown a family member or give up a best friend or like, not talk to a coworker if they think differently than you do. And that is insane. We see it every day, though. We see people walking away from friendships or marriages going to shit because they think different political views. And what? Like, I don't even know where to begin with that. I'm like, if you cannot differ on political views and yet still find common ground to keep your friendship, or even worse, keep your marriage, there are bigger problems than politics if that's going on. That's all I'm saying. I just, It is possible, guys. It is possible. I have a lifelong friend who for the better part of our lives, were completely different on the political spectrum. Never did it affect our friendship, our family, our like never. We had fun ribbing back and forth, but respected each other's opinion. It is possible to think differently. And then I'm going to let you jump in here, but I just want to finish with my thoughts on this by saying you shouldn't lock down or sacrifice a friendship or a marriage or a family member for a political belief or difference, only in the sense that things change, people change, cultures and environments and situations change. So the way you think today may not be the way you think 5 years from now or 10 years from now. I've shifted my entire political, and I'll use my Reagan's, analogy when he said, I didn't leave the Democratic Party, the Democratic Party left me. Same. I didn't leave the Republican Party. The Republican Party left me. They are just not the same as what they were when I chose to identify that way. And so my point is, if you're going to destroy a relationship over something that you might not even think 10 years from now, I mean, you're going to look back at it, regret it. So don't make stupid decisions or let your views get you, because it's just not worth it. It's not worth it.
No, it's definitely not. Because I mean, even with certain family members that are in my family, politics were never really spoken about with these specific people. But then, when social media becomes a thing, Facebook's a huge thing. When Trump got the election, when he won the election, way back when, and so when it got to that point, I feel like, there's always been political divide. Everybody's always having different opinions. I mean, we always talk about it, and we feel like, the hatred really started, we think. I mean, it started forever ago because, like we said, there's always been divide, but it
Right.
started when Obama came into office, in my opinion, and then people shifted to where, what if he's not even a real American? What if he's not legal? His middle name's Hussein. Let me see that birth certificate. All of these different things. So that started hate. And then that dwindles into Trump's first presidency. And then social media being as big as it is, and especially a lot of older generational people on social media, a lot of opinions start flying. And then I feel like that's when the divide really becomes like a lot, a lot to look at, a lot to take in, a lot to have conversations about, because it's not just a simple back and forth conversation. People get very passionate about this stuff. And, you should be passionate about your politics, but you shouldn't let it get to, fuck you, no, fuck you too. Like that,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous. It should not get to that point. And, you know, it, it really did get to that point with me just not having those conversations with certain members of my family or certain people who I kind of can gauge how they think about certain things. And that's kind of the sad part where we're at in society right now too. Like you always kind of tiptoe around certain situations like politics, religion, or different things like that. So you don't know how to approach people, and you don't know how to bring up conversations because you don't want it to automatically start, guns blazing. And I mean, it's unfortunate because, especially with politics, you can believe in whatever you want to believe in on the religious side. You can love whoever you want to love on the sex side. But when it comes to politics, we're all just trying to make sure our country is represented the right way, ran the right way, making sure we get the benefits that we need are for our family, for the next generation of kin that is coming up behind us. So it's very unfortunate to where we have gotten to this point in society to where we feel like we can't have conversations with people on the other side, and even in the political spectrum can't have conversations with people on across the aisle.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's just super unfortunate. And I feel like with the whole Taylor Swift and Brittany and Mahomes thing, like because Kansas City had their opening game and everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, they're not sitting in the same box, they're not sitting together when they're best friends, blah blah blah." But it's like, I almost feel like that was probably implemented that way because her team was probably like, we don't want you to get that massive feedback because you're sitting with her because she's a Trump supporter, which is just so stupid, man.
Well,
I mean, the internet has too much control right now.
and
That's my
and
opinion.
and then they almost, because of the flack they took for it, many people thought then the following week at the US Open they staged the hug and embrace and dancing with each other, that to try
Yeah.
to say, no, look, we do love each other, kind of. It's like, how about they were just not in a box together one week and they were hanging out jamming the next week? Both are probably true, and it's no big
Literally,
deal.
yeah.
There was no agenda or motive or conspiracy behind. Sometimes friends don't sit together. Sometimes they got something going on. It's like, but so that's the mental health aspect of it, right? Like this idea that you cannot live authentically without being judged. I feel like whatever your political view is, if that's your authentic you, if that's how you think and feel and breathe, and that is your, then you should not be worried about somebody hating you or saying things about you or trying to destroy you or disown you or whatever, just because you're being authentic. There should be, there was a moment in the debate where Kamala said this, and anybody who's known me for years and years, or even listened to this podcast, I say this all the time. We have far more in common than we have differences. And if you would just sit down and talk and listen to each other, you would realize that. And she said that. She used that very line. We have far more in common than we do differences. And it's, if we can get to that point again, I feel like a lot of this hate and this toxicity that's causing the mental anguish and the mental anxiety and this stuff would go away, because there really is so much common ground. It's like you just said, we all just want what's best for the kids. We all just want what's best for the economy. We all agree we want to be able to go buy food when we're hungry and not have to worry about the price. We want to know that we can go to the hospital and get a treatment done without having to sacrifice the car payment that month. Or what? All of these things are true. Everybody believes that, whether you're Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, progressive, whatever. That is the truth for most people. And if you just sit down, the idea that, oh, well, you're a Trumpster, so you can't possibly agree that we need cheaper food. What? Or vice versa, that you're a liberal, so you don't think we need this or that. It's absurd to have these thoughts and these things. And I want to credit and look, this very statement will probably bring Trump supporters hating me. And I don't care, but I'm going to say it anyway. Kamala deserves all the respect, all of the props, because when they came out, remember at the Biden debate, they didn't shake hands. They both walked straight to the podium, got behind the podium. Well, Trump was going to do the same thing. Trump came out and he immediately started walking towards behind his podium. And that woman came all the way across the stage, forced herself behind his podium and put out her hand, forced the handshake, introduced herself by name, and said, "Let's have a good debate." That right there, in my opinion, won the debate before it even started, because that shows that she is trying to be respectful. She hates this guy. Everything about him she disdains, but she was trying to be respectful to him and go over and do that. And so my point being is that's how it should be. Even when you have total disrespect, even when you have total disdain, you think differently on everything, there should be that point where you go, you know what? We disagree on everything, but I'm going to show you some respect. We're going to make this civil. And even the next day on 9/11, she did it again. They were all at the 9/11 ceremony, and it was her and Biden and Bloomberg and Giuliani and Trump. And it was, I have to say, and probably because it was in New York, it was a Trump-friendly crowd. You could hear them saying, "Trump, Trump, woo, we love you, MAGA." And she stood there, and Biden stood there, and they took that. But she made a point to go around Biden over to Trump, shook his hand and said, "That was fun last night. We, we should do it again. Thanks for debating." She made that effort to say, "Let's be civil." Why can't we all just do that? Why can't we all just be civil? That would take care of so many of the toxicity problems and the anxiety problems and the depression. We don't even talk about the mental. People are depressed right now because of the situation with politics.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, I think if we got back to that point of respect and being able to, have the differing opinions and just, all right, time has passed, we can shake hands and be fine. Like it's
Yeah.
not, I feel like it's really gotten to the point where like if you pick either which side, the other side is going to be like, "Oh no, you killed my family member. You killed my dog. You did this, you did that." So I mean, it's gotten to like a lot of pointing fingers,
Yeah.
which I feel like it shouldn't be that way, which is crazy. But I mean, the trust in the government has always been a thing, right? And I mean, we did have the third party candidate that who we talked about the first time around on Political Anxiety Part 1, where Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he came out of nowhere, never been in the political spectrum before. He's a business owner. He, is somebody who obviously comes from a legacy family who's been all over the United States government. So we really didn't know what to expect. And I threw out the conspiracy theory last time about how, is it a ploy? Is it a ploy to take away votes from different sides? And, with him dropping out and then automatically endorsing Trump, which again is not a problem. That's not a problem. But with it being rumored weeks, months beforehand as a ploy to distract people from voting either which way, I feel like it's unsettling to the point where you do get a lot of anxiety. You do get a lot of second thought. You get depression about, who can I trust and to run our country? Who can I trust to get us to the next point in line to where we can continue moving forward and just gain some common knowledge about what's out there and what can we actually take in as a society as far as benefits, as far as, inflation and all of these different things. But I mean, it does make me feel some type of way when I see situations like that because you're just like, was it a ploy the whole time? Was it something that, I mean, I was just getting fed, through a straw and kind of like a comatose person? I don't know. That specific instance, I mean, it upset me. I'm not even gonna lie. It got me infuriated.
Well, and the answer to the question is yes, it was.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a ploy to try, in my opinion, to try to take away voters from one candidate or the other. The intention was to get into power. And that became clear because he approached Kamala and said that he would drop out of the race and endorse her in exchange for a cabinet position, to which she flat out said no. And then he immediately went to Trump and made the same offer. Trump said yes in a roundabout way, didn't promise him, but didn't say no. And then he dropped and endorsed him. And then now it's coming out that, Trump has said numerous times since then that it's likely he would be on the cabinet because he's a solid person with good ideas, etc. So it was all intentional to try to get. And so, yeah, to your point of it gives us a distrust in politicians. Well, yeah, because this guy was only trying to do what he wanted to do to get himself in a position of power. And it wasn't for the good of the country or the bad of the country or for one candidate or for the other. It was for himself. And he wanted to get into power, which is disturbing. And we know Trump operates that way because he'll be bashing the hell out of people, but then if those people turn around and say something good about him or endorse him, he praises them. Oh, they're genius. They're this or that. He is beholden to whoever kisses his ass, whoever gives him money, whoever sways him with love and joy. That is where he goes. And if you turn on him, he turns on you. So you can't trust a person like that. It's And so, yeah, there's a lot of distrust in the government. And yeah, on the same side, because I don't want it to seem like I'm only attacking the one side. How long did they know about Biden? You cannot tell me that they really didn't know that this man was not capable of running the country, that he was just
Exactly.
basically out of it mentally. He was deteriorating. He was basically probably not the one making decisions. There's no way his chief of staff or Kamala or other people close to him in the administration did not know. So you have to ask, were they intentionally covering it up? Or were they just oblivious, which either way it's a disaster for the country. And and again goes the distrust. We're talking about how we can't trust Trump, we can't trust, but can we trust the other side also? And so it goes back to my argument about if we would just live authentic lives, just be who you are, and people will either like you and vote for you, or they will not like you and not vote for you. You shouldn't have to pander or mold yourself or pretend to be something that you're not to try to get votes, to try to get into power. And I think that's the biggest issue in politics today is it's all about manipulation and fabrication and masks to try to be something or be a certain way to get a certain thing. And that is always detrimental to the country because the country suffers from that. And we've got to get past that because there are serious issues going on in this country and people are suffering and the world, the national stage is in serious trouble. There's a lot of things that both of those candidates said, even Trump, that are true if he would just not go off the rails. When he said immigrants are committing crimes in this country, there is proof that they are taking over whole apartment complexes in certain cities and forcing residents to pay rent to them instead of the landlords and threatening to kill them if they don't. That is true. But then he goes off the rails and makes a dumbass statement about they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're stealing your pets to eat them. Which makes him then go. Then you don't want to believe him on the other one, where people are taking over the apartment complexes or whatever. There is truth to some things that he says, just like there is a lot of truth to a lot of things that Kamala says. But when we start going off the rails and you start doing all this crazy talk and you start doing this stuff, then you lose that ability to be authentic to the voters, to the people in the country. That's when we get in trouble.
Yeah, I completely agree because yeah, once you do that, you're just like as a consumer or as somebody who's a voter, you're just like, what are we doing? Where are we at? Why are we
Yeah.
talking about eating cats and dogs? Like, I mean, I can't tell you how big of a TikTok thread it is right
Oh,
now
it's
of just
hilarious, but it's
yeah, I mean,
not. Yeah.
at the same time, it's just absolutely crazy. My biggest thing with the Democratic Party is I personally wish that they would not lean so heavily in the entertainment industry. They lean so hard. And I mean, I feel like this political campaign, I don't want to say more than others, but it's been more obvious than others. I guess you could say because like it's just when you are looking at everybody who's endorsing Trump and you're looking at everybody who's endorsing Harris, you're just like, okay, you can see the polar opposites. It's obvious. You get a lot of industrial workers, farmers, agricultural, very, blue collar jobs, obviously, for, Trump supporters or the Republican Party. And then you get a lot of entertainment people and a lot of scientists and a lot of people who are very it's I feel like it's a wide range of people on the Democratic side that support, and it's a very blue collar situation on the Republican side. That's just my opinion, and that's kind of what I see it as where we're at right now. But I just feel like when we're talking about when Biden was dropping out, and we're talking about all of these Hollywood celebrities who no longer want to put money forth towards the campaign, and it's a big problem. I just, why are we relying so heavily on the Democratic side in Hollywood? I just feel like, I know they get a lot of money, but like, we already influence enough people with IP, with content. So I don't know. I just
Well,
don't like how highly publicized it was this past round.
and here's the irony of it, right? Because the Republican golden boy, Ronald Reagan,
Hmm.
came from that industry.
Yeah.
And they supported him. They gave him tons of money. They threw campaigns for him. They roasted him. They were all, because he came from them, right? And then the total shift, right? Keep in mind that he was the head of SAG. He's a union guy, which is typically Democrat, right? And to be fair, he was a Democrat and shifted. But my point being is how it has shifted. And I want to be careful on how I state this, because I don't want to give the wrong impression or say this the wrong way. But because I'm sure not all of them, but there is a small percentage of the entertainment industry that are extremely wealthy, right? The majority of them are not. The majority of them are blue collar people working job to job. But there is that percentage that is extremely wealthy. Your A-list celebrities, your movie stars, your music stars, etc. And they're out there bashing the Republicans, right? Bashing everything about it. And I have to say, and like I said, I want to be careful with this because I'm sure not every one of them, maybe there's a few, but the majority of them benefit the most from the Republicans, because do you think the vast majority of them take that wealthy tax cut that the Republicans give all the time to the rich? They're rich. Do they turn down the tax cut? Or do they benefit from that tax cut? So they benefit from the very thing they're out there bashing, but they don't turn it down. So the irony and hypocrisy of that is, like, you can't say that you're for the everyday guy and then bash all these horrible things that one side's doing and then benefit from those horrible things. Either put your money where your mouth is or stop saying one way or the other, right? And I don't have a problem with it. If you're wealthy and that tax cut benefits you, you should take the tax cut. I mean, what's wrong with that? But don't pretend to say that it's some sort of an evil thing that you're against and then benefit from it. That's where I have the issue. It's like, you can't pretend to be one way and say things and then do things the opposite. And it goes back to my whole theme of this episode: authenticity. Be your authentic self. Say, I would like some more social programs. I would like to help the middle class a little more. I think we should do this, or I think we should do that for healthcare. But I'm also all in on this tax cut. I'm also all in on my company benefiting from this or that. Just be authentic about it. There's no need to lie about it. Just say what it is and be you. I'm glad you brought that up. And the other thing that you brought up, because you used the word platform or pedestal, or because they do, and they have power. That's the thing. They have power. And an example of this is after the debate, when Taylor Swift did endorse, okay? Now, to her credit, she didn't tell anybody how to vote. She didn't tell any of her 232 million people how to vote. She said, do your research, educate yourself, and then make a decision on either way, which way you want, and vote. Go vote. And she provided where to go vote. Here's where you register to vote. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because within the first 16 hours after she made that post, 300,000 people signed up to vote. 300,000 people. Now, she has 232 million followers, okay? Very likely she's going to be responsible for more than 1 million or 2 million people signing up to vote. Okay? Now, why is that important? Because even if it was just the 300,000, the last election, guys, was decided by 40,000 votes. Nationwide, it was only 40,000 votes that separated Biden from Trump and the decision in that winning. So when she signs up 300,000 people, she very well could decide the election. And so when you are that powerful and you have that platform, you have to be very responsible with how you use it. And when you use it in bad ways or difficult ways, and like I said, I credit her because she did not, but you can add to the anxiety. You can add to the hatred. You can add if you use it the wrong way. And so it's very important that, if you do have a public platform, to use it wisely. That's all I'm saying, because you might be trying to do good, but inadvertently causing more harm by doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree because you see a lot of stuff like that. But it's an ongoing situation. It's always a learning process. We're gonna stay on top of it. If we need to do a part three, we'll do a part three. Who knows? I mean, but yeah, it's a crazy world we live in, and but the biggest thing is you have to make sure to get out and vote
Oh, you have
because
to.
like
You have to.
your vote matters. So just be out there and no matter what side you're on, we really don't care. Just get out there and vote. Activate your civic duty and go out there and vote. Just activate it.
That's
Like,
right.
all right, all right, all right. This rings yellow.
Yeah.
Never mind. It's one of my favorite clips from ItCaf podcast. If you want to go back and listen to it, who's
Yes.
going to be Hal Jordan? Who's going to be Hal
And then he
Jordan?
passed on it. I saw that. We're
And
going to
then he
talk about
back.
that this week, but he did pass on it. But yeah.
It's so funny. It's so funny. But anyway, guys, we did get some emails. We're super
Yeah.
excited about that. If you didn't know, you can email us at info@crazyantmedia.com about this podcast, about the other podcast. And, we'll read your emails out loud and discuss them a little bit. So this one is from Sarah R. and said, "Hi, Dustin and Logan. I recently listened to your episode on toxic work environments, and I'm really trying to implement some of the tips you have mentioned. However, I do find it incredibly hard to stay calm at work. Stressful. Do you have any advice how to manage throughout the day when things get a little too overwhelming? I try to meditate at home, but it's hard to carry that calm energy
Mm.
into the office. Again, thank you for your help." Well, Sarah, thank you for emailing us. We really appreciate you. It sounds like, I mean, if it's a good paying job and you have you feel like you have to stay, definitely stay until you find something else. But it sounds like you may need to change, you know, at least the job, at least, don't change careers, but at least change that specific office because maybe it's people around you, maybe it's people you interact with on a day-to-day basis. If it's like a customer service type of thing, call center, that can be very stressful, I can imagine. But I mean, I always implement, and maybe it's looked down upon, but take frequent breaks, and they don't
Yeah.
have to be anything logged. Take, very strategic frequent breaks so you can just go in the bathroom, go outside, go in the break room, do whatever, and just breathe. Just focus on your breathing for that, 2 to 3, 5 minutes, and just, try to center yourself back down before getting back into the chaos.
Yeah,
Because I mean, I've
that's
been there. I know Dustin's been there as well, to where jobs can be a lot. And, especially if you're somewhere that is paying really well, but you hate the actual job, it's a very difficult situation. But I mean, start with that and just see where you go.
Yeah, no, I echo that. In fact, I was going to say that almost exact same thing. It's like on your lunch break, go take a walk. Go
Hmm.
drive to the park and take a walk and just release. Just let it go, There nothing says you have to go to the break room and eat your sandwich. Get in the car
Yeah.
and go to a nearby park, or just go, somewhere nearby and take a walk. Breathe in the fresh air. Remove yourself from the environment for a few minutes. That does wonders. You'd be surprised at how much that can actually help. You just rethink, reset, refocus, and walk back in with a little bit more calm attitude. And the other thing, just because you said that you try to meditate at home, but it's hard to always carry the energy back into the office. What's the home situation like? Are we looking at something that's playing into maybe the negative energy or the negative vibes that you're bringing to work? Maybe the meditation at home isn't working because maybe there's some stuff going on at home that you're not even aware of that might be adding into or feeding that negative energy that you bring into work, and it builds from there. So just reassess, take a little bit of time at home, see if there's maybe some stuff, if everything's okay at home. And just small little tips like that, right? And I think what we've been talking about this whole episode, if you've been listening, and clearly we thank you for being a listener, is live authentically. Don't let those people at that job dictate who you are. And like Logan said, if you're chasing the money, don't do it. Be authentic and chase happiness, because happiness is the goal, right? And money isn't necessarily happiness. So if you have the opportunity to change the job, if it's not a necessity to keep it, remove yourself from the toxic environment. Like, at any given chance, if you're able to, that's the, I guess, the biggest key advice that we could give you. Remove yourself from the toxic environment if you have the ability to do so. So yeah.
Yes, most definitely. Thank you again, Sarah. And like we said, you can email us at info@crazyantmedia.com if you want to do so, or direct message us on social media. We're anywhere and everywhere on social media, and we love it. We love the interaction. We love to try to help people. Because life throws you curveballs, and you get a lot of different experiences out of life. And maybe you're 60 years old and experienced something new for the first time.
Maybe.
You never know. You never know. So like I said, you can email us at info@crazyantmedia.com with your comments, concerns, anything like that. But we want to thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. I know it can be a lot. It really can. And I mean, it's an ongoing process for the political spectrum, for your anxiety about where the country is, where it's going, where it has been. But we're here for you, and just remember that you can continue moving forward, keep reaching out, keep having conversations civilly, so that you can
Yes.
continue making positive outlooks on things and respecting other people's things. But thank you everyone for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe at Everything's OKP on X, Threads, and Instagram. So be sure to follow us there, and you can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify at Everything's Okay. And we just appreciate you. We're super. We love doing this. We love doing this podcast. So it's one of those things that it brings us joy to talk about all the dark shit and to talk about all the craziness. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. So everybody just remember that everything's okay.